Welcome once again to It's a Mystery, where we aim to solve some of the world's greatest and weirdest mysteries.
Join us as we take a look at some intriguing cases. Who or what lives in this giant tree? We question a mysterious legend.
Are you superstitious? We try to unlock the secret behind the unlucky number 13.
And we also investigate UFOs and other alien forms of life. Are they really out there? It's a mystery who, or what, could have lived in the middle of a forest in this giant tree.
So who do you think could have lived in this ancient tree? Well, look at the size of it. It's perfect for about 10 people to hide in. In fact, it's big enough for a whole gang. But why would a gang want to hide inside this tree in the depths of a forest? Well, centuries ago, people travelled through this dark and ancient forest. People like rich knights and noblemen, wealthy lords and ladies. So this forest was the perfect place for an ambush. Gangs of robbers would lurk in the forest, using the twisted trees as camouflage and secret hideouts. From these, they could ambush many a rich and unsuspecting traveller.
Stand, noble sir, and deliver unto me, you fusty plebeian.
You'll not have my money by my troth.
I think otherwise. Now hand your money over. Thank you.
No one escaped the gangs of outlaws, not even the richest, most powerful man in the area. And that man, the sheriff. And he lived here in this castle. In fact, there is still a sheriff today. Sheriff, hundreds of years ago, was the sheriff the richest man around?
Most certainly was, but only by virtue of the fact that he stole from the poor to give the money to Prince John.
And did he and his men travel through the forest?
Most certainly on their tax-gathering tours.
And was the forest actually this dark, deadly scene of ambushes, murders, robberies?
It most certainly was.
So who do you think did these robberies?
Well, I've read all the record books, and I have a shrewd idea, but I can't prove it.
Well, I've also been searching the record books, and look what I've discovered. In the handwritten pages of this ancient book, there's mention of a robber and outlaw who lived 800 years ago, and his name, Robert Hod, nicknamed Hobberhod. Robert Hod. Now, does that name ring a bell? Robert Hod? Robin Hood? Could this Robert Hod in fact be the famous Robin Hood? And did Robin Hood really exist? Well, you know, if you think about it, if Robin Hood didn't exist, then who was it that gave his name to places all over the country, from the Robin Hood caves at Creswell to Robin Hood's grave at Kirklees? And of course, this is the present-day sheriff of Nottingham. Now then, Sheriff, do you really think that Robin Hood existed?
I'm convinced Robin Hood existed, and he robbed from the rich to give to the poor.
So, you've seen the evidence, the mention of him in the ancient records, the Sheriff of Nottingham, the many places named after him. What do you think? Did he exist? Could Robin Hood be our Robert Hod? And could Robert Hod have used the ancient tree as a robber's hideout? Or is it all just a legend and a pantomime story? Let's examine the evidence. Well, the legend tells us of the romance between Robin Hood and Maid Marian. Now, there is evidence that Marian really existed, but the first mention of her is 300 years after our Robert Hodd lived. 300 years older than your loved one? Unlikely. The legend and pantomime shows Robin in a bright green outfit, but he wouldn't have worn a hat, and cotton and green dye weren't even invented then. Instead, 800 years ago, Robert Hodd would have worn clothes made out of leather, cloth and sack in a muddy brown or a murky yellow colour.
And what about the ancient tree? Well, this particular tree is about 800 years old, which means in Robert Hodd's day, 800 years ago, this tree, the gang's hideout, would have been only this big. So, who was Robert Hodd? Was he really Robin Hood? Did Robin Hood really exist? And who lived in the ancient tree? Well, whoever it wasn't Robin Hood.
It's a mystery whether UFOs, unidentified flying objects, really exist.
Scientists have argued that many of the planets in our galaxy have the conditions for life. So could there be aliens out there? Could aliens have tried to visit us?
Well, in the last 50 years, an amazing 40 million UFO sightings have been reported and researched.
So let's consider this case file. It was late evening on the 17th of May 1996, and Dennis Rainbow from Lancing, West Sussex, saw a strange glowing shape in the night sky. It was twice the size of most stars and very bright. It also seemed to be diamond shaped and was glowing green at the top and yellow at the bottom. And what's more, Dennis thought he could make out two red lights that appeared and then disappeared. What do you think it could have been? Well, Dennis reported the sighting to his local paper, who looked into the mystery. It turned out that other people in the same area had also seen the UFO, yet neither the police nor the nearby airport could offer any explanation. Could they all have witnessed a visit from an alien spaceship?
Well, the case was finally solved when an astronomer revealed that the mysterious glowing UFO was in fact the planet Venus, which on a clear night can look quite strange when you see it with the naked eye. You may even have seen it yourself occasionally. In fact, around 95% of all UFO sightings are easily solved. They are simply cases of mistaken identity.
Now, anything which you might see in the sky and which you don't easily recognise is often reported as a UFO. For example, people have often mistaken meteorites, which can fly through the sky at over 300 miles per hour, as UFOs. Or giant weather balloons like this have been thought to be UFOs.
There have even been some great hoaxes. After fooling everybody for a while, this photo was eventually proved to be a fake. The UFO was in fact just a small model. Evidence of fake UFOs being built has even been found. So there you go. UFOs are a myth. They are all explainable.
Or are they? Well, Nick Gunton is an investigator with the British UFO Research Association. Now, Nick, is it true that 95% of all sightings are explainable?
It is, yeah, 95% are, but that still leaves 5% which cannot be explained.
So, is there any explanation whatsoever about those 5%, or could they actually be spaceships?
They could be spaceships, but by their very nature, a UFO means unidentified flying object, so it's just something flying around in the sky which we don't know what it is.
Now, you've got some unexplained photographs, haven't you? Could you talk us through them here?
Right, well, this first one was taken in 1972 in South Africa, and the object was seen by a number of people, including police officers. It hovered around in the air for over an hour and changed colour from red to green to black.
And was there any convincing explanation?
None whatsoever.
Okay, let's take a look at another photo here. Can you explain this one to us?
Right, yeah, this next one is a bit more recent, from 1992, and it's in Somerset. The chap who saw this one reported it as being a bright white object, as you can see there, and just the wrong shape to be a star, much too close to be a star. Doesn't look like a star.
And again, no explanation?
No explanation.
What about this very famous photo?
Right, yeah, this one was taken in 1984 in Brazil. Lots of people saw it. It hovered above the city of Sao Paulo. And there wasn't just one either, there were many of them. And they were picked up on airport radar. And one even overtook an aircraft pilot, fighter pilot, who said it was going much too fast to be a plane.
So they were actually there, they were photographed, but does anyone have an explanation?
No explanation.
Nick, thanks very much.
Thank you.
What do you think? Can you explain everything you see in the sky? Maybe you think you might have seen a UFO. Is there really anybody out there?
My name is Jack Corney. I am the director of the Isle of Wight Zoo. On the 4th of August 1993, I died. I was extracting venom from a cobra. I made a small mistake and the cobra bit me and gave me a potentially lethal injection of venom. My son wasted no time. He telephoned to the search and rescue unit, which flew to the Isle of Wight to take me to Southampton General Hospital.
As the helicopter landed, I could see by the look on the pilot's face that things must be very serious.
I blacked out and I died.
What do you think happened to Jack? He received a lethal injection from one of the world's most dangerous snakes. Just this much cobra venom would be enough to kill up to 100 men. Jack's heart had stopped. He had died. Yet he survived to tell the tale. How?
When I arrived in the hospital, I was given an injection of anti-venom. Nobody knew if it would do its job. Fortunately, it did, and I survived.
That antivenom was the key to Jack's survival. Luckily, the hospital keeps a special supply for such emergencies. Thankfully, Jack survived his dice with death.
It's a mystery to me how you can read someone's mind by reading their body.
I beg your pardon?
She's annoyed with me now.
No, I'm not.
Now she's lying to me.
OK, clever clogs. What am I thinking now?
You're being defensive. And I can tell by her body language. You see, we use body language to signal our moods and feelings. It's something we all do, all of the time, often without even realising it.
So what do you think I'm signalling by crossing my arms and my legs? Well, it can show that you're feeling worried or defensive. It gives you a protective barrier, and it's kind of like giving yourself a hug.
And how did I know Sophie was lying before? Well, you can tell if someone's lying because they'll often try to cover up the lie coming out of their mouth by maybe stroking their chin, or rubbing their nose, or even scratching their eyebrow.
And here are some great ways to work out if someone fancies you. They might not even know it, but if someone perhaps smiles a little longer than usual, or gazes into your eyes, you might get a clue. In fact, when you see someone you really like, the size of your pupils can actually get bigger.
Now, so much of our body language happens without us even knowing it, and many of our signals come from childhood. For example, experts have suggested that when you shake your head to mean no, it comes from when you were a baby and you turned your head away when you didn't want any food or drink.
And did you know that I just said hello to you by raising my eyebrows? It's something that people do all over the world when they greet each other without even realising it.
And when people celebrate a victory or achievement, their body language reflects it by making them appear taller. So, a winning boxer might hold his arms in the air.
And if you get top marks in your exams, you might hold your head high with pride.
Or if you score the winning goal in a football match, you might take a wild jump for joy.
OK, but it can get confusing. How about this? In Britain, if I wanted to call you stupid dizzy brain, I'd do this maybe.
Ah, not always. If you did that in Holland, you'd be calling someone intelligent.
And in Japan, this doesn't always mean OK. It can be a symbol for money.
So you can't get away from it. You're sending signals and communicating with your body language all the time. See what I mean? It's a mystery why the number 13 is supposed to be unlucky. In 1970, Apollo 13 blasted into space. This ill-fated mission, the 13th of the Apollo series, left the launch pad at 13 minutes past the hour. Within hours, there was a massive explosion which seriously damaged the craft and almost killed the crew. Fortunately, they returned safely to Earth days later, but with the curse of number 13 hanging over the entire mission. Now, was this coincidence, or was it a strange supernatural force? What do you think?
Does the number 13 worry you? Well, people all around the world have gone to great lengths to avoid the number 13 altogether.
In America, it's said that you should not get married, set off on a journey, move to a new house, start a job, or even cut your nails on the 13th of the month. Also, some American hotel managers cater to superstition. For example, at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in New York, there is no 13th floor. It jumps from 12 to 14.
In Germany, when the Queen was touring in 1965, she was scheduled to depart from Duisburg railway station at platform 13. Officials changed the platform number to 12A.
In France, it is considered so unlucky to have 13 places at dinner that you can hire somebody called a 14e, a professional 14th guest, to round up the numbers.
And here in Britain, when Princess Margaret was born, palace officials didn't immediately record the birth because the next available child's registration number was 13. They waited until 3 days later so they could register her on certificate number 14.
But why is the number 13 considered so unlucky? Well, basically, it is thought that it goes back to biblical beliefs, where 12 was a complete number and therefore a whole number, as in the 12 apostles. Now, one more than that was considered unlucky.
In fact, Friday the 13th is thought to be doubly unlucky because legend has it that until the end of the 19th century, Friday was known as Hangman's Day and was reserved for executions. Some people think that is where all the superstition comes from.
So what do you do on Friday the 13th? Do you wake up thinking the day is going to be a catalogue of bad luck, or that you're going to fail your exams? Or do you dismiss it as silly superstition? Well, let me leave you with this one last thought. There's at least one Friday the 13th in every year. And if you are superstitious, you'd better watch out, because in 1998, there will be 3.
There are so many stories about the number 13. The question is, which one's the truth? We shall never know.
Well, that's another collection of weird mysteries. Some we've solved and some remain unsolved.
Join us next time for another journey into the amazing world of the unknown.
But just before we go, here's one last mystery for you to solve.
A woman watched her husband fall headfirst over a cliff. When she returned home, she found him sitting at the table, eating his supper. How could this be possible?
Can you solve the mystery? We'll reveal the answer next time.
Last week's final mystery was what had happened to a man found dead in the middle of a field with nothing nearby except an unopened package. The answer is, the package was a parachute which had failed to open.